The Galactic Academy of Combat stood high above the clouds of planet Xeron. It was the most famous school in the known galaxy. Children from powerful alien races came there to learn science, war, and survival. Every student dreamed of becoming a great warrior one day. But on that morning, the academy was waiting for a student unlike any they had seen before. A small transport ship landed quietly near the academy gates. The doors opened and a young boy stepped outside. His name was Kael Morgan. He was only 13 years old and came from Earth. The guards looked at him with surprise because he looked too small and too normal. No armor covered his body and no weapons hung from his belt. The news spread quickly through the academy halls. A human had arrived. Many alien students stopped what they were doing just to see him. Some whispered to each other while others laughed openly. To them, Kael looked weak compared to the giant warriors from other worlds. They could not believe that a human child had been accepted into their academy. One tall reptilian student crossed his arms and smiled. He said humans were only good at hiding behind machines and computers. Another student joked that Kael would probably quit after the first training session. Their laughter filled the hallway. Kael heard every word, but he said nothing. He simply carried his bag and walked toward his classroom. Inside the room stood Professor Varkon, the Academy's combat instructor. He was known across 3 star systems for his strength and discipline. His species came from a high-gravity world, and his body was covered in thick scales. Students respected him and feared him at the same time. Varkon looked at Kael for a long moment before speaking. "So this is the human student," Varkon said slowly. His voice echoed across the room. "I expected someone bigger." The class laughed again. Kael remained quiet and moved to an empty seat near the back. He had learned long ago that arguing with people never changed their minds. The lesson began with combat theory. Professor Varkon explained the timing of attacks and defensive movements used by the strongest species in the galaxy. Strange symbols appeared on the classroom screen. Kael tried his best to understand them, but the system was completely new to him. He raised questions several times, hoping to learn faster. Varkon did not like interruptions. Each question made him more annoyed. He believed strong warriors learned quickly and adapted immediately. When Kael asked another question about the movement patterns, the professor let out a deep sigh. He stared directly at the young human sitting quietly in his chair. "A Deathworld student should not struggle with simple lessons," Varkon said loudly. "The stories about humans must be greatly exaggerated." The classroom became silent for a moment before several students laughed again. Kael lowered his eyes toward his desk. He was not angry, but he felt embarrassed in front of everyone. The lesson moved to practical training. Students were ordered to stand and copy the attack movements shown by the professor. Kael followed carefully, but some of the movements felt unnatural to him. His body moved differently from the alien students around him. Varkon watched with growing frustration as Kael failed to match the exact form. Finally, the professor lost his patience. He stepped closer to the human boy and shook his head. "You carry the name of a Deathworld species, yet you move slower than children from peaceful planets," he said. The room was silent once again as every student watched the scene unfold. Without warning, Varkon raised his hand and struck Kael across the face. The sound echoed through the classroom. Several students gasped. Everyone expected the human boy to fall to the ground, but Kael did not move. His feet stayed exactly where they were. His expression barely changed. For the first time that day, silence filled the room completely. Professor Varkon stared at his own hand with confusion. A sharp pain shot through his arm. His fingers began to shake. Slowly, the pain traveled from his hand to his wrist and then higher toward his elbow. Kael looked up at the professor with surprise in his eyes. "Sir, are you okay?" he asked quietly. Before Varkon could answer, a loud cracking sound came from his arm. The professor stepped backward in shock. His arm hung at an unnatural angle. Students jumped from their seats in panic. The strongest combat teacher in the academy had injured himself after striking a human child. No one understood how it was possible. Kael looked even more confused than everyone else. But deep inside the minds of the alien students, one frightening question appeared. If this was the strength of a normal human child, What would an adult human be capable of? The medical room of the Galactic Academy was filled with confusion. Several alien doctors surrounded Professor Varkon while scanning his damaged arm. None of them could understand what had happened. The injury was not caused by an attack from Kael. It happened because Varkon's own hand could not handle the impact. The doctors checked the results again and again. They thought the machines were broken. A simple human child should not have a body stronger than a trained alien warrior. But every scan showed the same result. Kael's bones were far denser than normal, and his muscles were built for extreme conditions. Outside the medical room, the entire academy was talking about the incident. Students who laughed at Kael earlier were now silent. They looked at the young human differently. The same boy they called weak had just created something impossible. Fear and curiosity started growing in their minds. Kael stood outside the medical room, waiting quietly. He did not celebrate what happened. He did not feel proud about hurting his teacher. In his mind, something had gone wrong, and he only wanted to know if Professor Varkon was safe. This confused the aliens even more. Most warriors in the galaxy cared about showing strength. They believed power was a reason to gain respect. But Kael was different. He had strength, yet he did not want to use it against others. This was something many alien students had never seen before. When Professor Varkon finally came out of the medical room, the entire hallway became silent. His arm was repaired with advanced alien technology, but his expression had changed. The anger in his eyes was gone. Now there was only confusion and a small amount of fear. The professor looked at Kael for a long moment. He expected the human child to laugh or insult him after what happened. But Kael only asked if his arm was feeling better. That simple question surprised Varkon more than the injury itself. Later that night, Professor Varkon searched through the Academy's ancient database. He wanted answers. He wanted to know why a young human had such incredible strength. The information he found was something that even the oldest alien records rarely mentioned. Earth was not a peaceful planet. It was a death world, a place where survival was never guaranteed. The database showed images of Earth's dangerous environments. Massive storms, extreme temperatures, powerful animals, and endless natural challenges appeared on the screen. The professor slowly realized that humans were not strong because of advanced technology. They were strong because their entire history was a battle for survival. For millions of years, humans had adapted to a world that tried to destroy them. Their bodies learned to endure pain, recover from injuries, and continue moving forward. The aliens had spent thousands of years making their planets safer, but humans had evolved on a planet that never became easy. Professor Varkon looked at the information in disbelief. He remembered how easily he had judged Kael. He thought the boy was weak because he was smaller than other species. But now he understood that size meant nothing when a creature came from a death world. The next morning, Kael returned to class. Everyone watched him enter. The same students who laughed before now moved away quietly. Some were afraid of him, while others wanted to understand him. Kael noticed the strange behavior, but did not know why everyone had changed. During the lesson, Professor Varkon did something unexpected. He asked Kael to stand in front of the class. Every student became nervous because they thought another test was coming, but instead, the professor looked at the human child and spoke calmly. "Yesterday I made a mistake," Varkon said. "I judged you before understanding you." The classroom became completely silent. No one had ever heard the powerful professor admit a mistake before. But Varkon was not finished. He wanted to test something. He wanted to know if Kael's strength was only a natural ability, or if humans had something much more dangerous hidden inside them. The professor announced a special combat evaluation, a challenge that no normal student could complete. The entire academy gathered to watch. Kael stepped into the training arena, unaware that this simple test would reveal the true nature of humanity to the galaxy. Because Professor Varkon was about to discover something even more shocking than human strength. Humans did not just survive danger, they learned from it. The entire Galactic Academy gathered inside the massive combat arena. Thousands of students and teachers came to watch the special evaluation. Everyone wanted to know the truth about the human boy named Kael. Some believed he was dangerous, while others thought his first incident was only an accident. Kael stood in the middle of the arena without any armor or weapons. He looked small compared to the giant warriors around him. The students whispered among themselves, wondering how someone like him could survive the challenge. But Kael remained calm because he had faced difficult situations before. Professor Varkon entered the arena wearing his combat armor. His repaired arm was stronger than before, but his mind was different now. He no longer saw Kael as a weak child. He wanted to understand what made humans different from every other species in the galaxy. The test was simple. Kael had to survive 3 minutes against an advanced training machine. The machine was created to copy the movements of the strongest fighters in the universe. Many adult warriors had failed this test because the machine was too fast and too powerful. The battle started, and the machine moved instantly. Its metal arms attacked from different directions at incredible speed. The students expected Kael to fall within seconds. But instead of fighting back, Kael watched carefully and moved away from every attack. Professor Varkon looked surprised. He noticed something unusual about the human boy. Kael was not trying to overpower the machine. He was studying it. Every movement, every attack, and every mistake was becoming information inside his mind. The machine increased its speed. Its attacks became stronger and harder to avoid. The audience became silent as Kael continued moving. The same students who laughed at him yesterday were now watching with complete attention. After several minutes, something strange happened. Kael started predicting the machine's attacks before they happened. He moved before the machine even began its strikes. It was almost like he could see the future. The alien students could not understand what they were seeing. Their species trained for thousands of years to improve reaction speed. But this human child was learning during the fight itself. He was adapting faster than the machine could adjust. Professor Varkon studied Kael's movements carefully. Then he remembered the information he found about Earth. Humans had survived against unknown dangers for millions of years. They did not have the strongest bodies in the beginning, but they had the ability to change and improve. The machine suddenly changed its fighting style. It created a new attack pattern that Kael had never seen before. For the first time, the boy was pushed backward. The crowd believed the challenge was finally over. But Kael slowly stood straight again. He looked at the machine. Then he smiled. The students became confused. Why was he smiling? Kael was not happy because he was winning. He was happy because he had learned something new. The machine attacked again, but this time Kael moved differently. He copied the timing of the machine and used its own movements against it. With one simple move, he pushed the massive machine away. The entire arena became silent. A 13-year-old human had defeated a combat system designed for adult warriors. Professor Varkon walked closer to the arena floor. He looked at Kael with a mixture of surprise and respect. He finally understood the true danger of humans. Their strength was not only in their muscles. Their greatest weapon was their ability to learn. But before anyone could celebrate, the Academy alarm suddenly started ringing. A red warning light covered the entire arena. The students looked around in fear. Something had escaped from the forbidden research area of the Academy. Something that even the strongest warriors were afraid to face. Professor Varkon's expression changed instantly. He knew what was coming. The creature that escaped was not a normal enemy. It was created to defeat the strongest species in the galaxy. And now, it was moving directly toward the combat arena where Kael was standing. The entire academy entered a state of panic as the emergency alarms continued to echo through the halls. Red lights flashed across the walls, warning everyone about the danger that had escaped. Students who were watching Kael's test moments ago quickly moved away from the arena. Even the strongest warriors looked worried. Professor Varkon immediately recognized the danger. The creature that escaped was known as a Zorax hunter, a biological weapon created from the strongest species in the galaxy. It was designed to study combat and destroy powerful enemies. No normal student or teacher was prepared to face such a monster. The massive creature entered the arena through the broken gates. Its body was covered with thick black armor, and its glowing eyes scanned the area. Every step it took shook the ground beneath it. The students froze because they knew this creature was not something they could defeat. Several senior warriors stepped forward to stop it. They attacked together using advanced weapons and combat skills. But the creature moved faster than expected. It blocked every attack and pushed the warriors away like they were nothing. The audience watched in fear as their strongest fighters failed. Professor Varkon ordered everyone to leave the arena. He knew the creature was too dangerous. But before the students could escape, the Zorax hunter turned toward the crowd. It was searching for the strongest target in the area. Then its eyes stopped on Kael. The human boy stood alone in the center of the arena. Everyone became silent. The students expected Kael to run away, but he did not move. Professor Varkon quickly stepped forward and told Kael to leave. He said the creature was not a training machine, and this was not a simple test. This was a real battle where one mistake could end his life. Kael looked at the creature carefully. He was afraid, but he remembered something his grandfather always told him. Fear was not a sign of weakness. Fear was a warning that helped people survive. The Zorax hunter charged toward him with incredible speed. The ground cracked beneath its heavy body. Everyone shouted for Kael to move. But instead of running, Kael watched every movement of the creature. At the last second, Kael moved to the side. The creature missed. The entire arena gasped. How did a young human avoid an attack that even trained warriors could not see? Kael did not know either. He was not faster than the creature. He was not stronger than the creature. He was simply learning. Every attack showed him something new. The Zorax hunter attacked again and again, but Kael continued avoiding its strikes. His movements became smoother with every second. The aliens watched in disbelief as the human child adapted to a monster designed to defeat experienced fighters. Professor Varkon stared at Kael in silence. He finally understood the true meaning of being a Deathworlder. Humans were not creatures who were born unbeatable. They were creatures who became stronger whenever something tried to defeat them. The battle continued for several minutes. The creature became more aggressive because it could not understand why its target was still standing. It increased its power and prepared its strongest attack. The students covered their eyes. The teachers prepared for the worst. But Kael looked calm. He noticed a weakness in the creature's movement. A small opening, something no one else had seen. The Zorax hunter rushed forward with all its strength, and this time, Kael did not move away. He moved toward it. The entire galaxy would soon learn the most dangerous ability of humanity. Not strength, not speed, adaptation. Because humans were not created to win every battle. They were created to survive until they found a way to win. The entire arena became silent as the Zorax hunter rushed toward Kael with its strongest attack. The creature moved like a powerful storm, carrying enough force to destroy a large machine. Every student believed the human boy had made a mistake by moving toward the monster instead of running away. But Kael was not fighting with anger or fear. He was thinking. In the last few minutes he had watched every movement of the creature. He noticed the way it placed its feet, the way it moved its shoulders before attacking, and the small delay before using its full power. The weakness was hidden, but Kael had found it. At the final moment, Kael moved under the creature's attack. The massive claws passed above him and hit the ground with incredible force. The arena floor broke from the impact, but Kael was already moving. He used the creature's own strength against it. With a quick movement, Kael pushed against the weak point he discovered. The Zorax hunter lost balance and crashed onto the ground. The entire arena shook from the impact. Thousands of aliens watched in complete disbelief. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. A human child had just defeated a creature designed to destroy the strongest warriors in the galaxy. The Zorax hunter tried to stand again. It was confused because its calculations showed that Kael should have been defeated. The creature had fought countless battles, but it had never faced an opponent who changed during the fight. Kael looked at the creature carefully. He did not want to hurt it more than necessary. He was not trying to prove that he was stronger. He only wanted to stop the danger and protect everyone around him. Professor Varkon watched from the side of the arena. His thoughts were completely different from before. He remembered the moment when he called humans weak. Now he understood how wrong he was. Humans were not dangerous because they were born stronger than everyone else. They were dangerous because they never stopped learning. The Academy security team finally arrived and used special equipment to control the Zorax hunter. The creature was taken away safely, but nobody in the arena cared about the monster anymore. Everyone was looking at Kael. The alien students who laughed at him before now stood quietly. They had seen something they never believed possible. A small human child had shown them a power that did not come from weapons or technology. It came from survival. Later that day, the Academy leaders held an emergency meeting. They wanted to understand what happened. They studied Kael's movements, his reaction speed, and his ability to adapt during combat. Their conclusion shocked everyone. Humans were a unique species. Most races in the galaxy became stronger through technology, training, and genetic improvements. But humans became stronger through challenges. Every difficult moment forced them to grow. Professor Varkon entered the meeting room and placed a file on the table. It contained information about Earth and human history. The other leaders opened the file and slowly realized the truth. Earth was not a planet that created weak creatures. Earth was a planet that created survivors. The galaxy had misunderstood humanity for thousands of years. They thought humans were dangerous because of their weapons. They were wrong. Humans were dangerous because even without weapons, they could adapt, survive, and overcome impossible situations. After the incident, Kael became known throughout the Academy. Students from different planets wanted to learn from him. They no longer saw him as a weak child from a distant world. They saw him as proof of something they had forgotten. Strength was not always about size. Power was not always about destruction. Sometimes the strongest warriors were the ones who could stand again after everything tried to break them. Professor Varkon finally approached Kael after the event. The powerful teacher who once looked down on him now showed respect. "I judged you before knowing your story," Varkon said. "That was my failure." Kael simply smiled and accepted his apology. He did not want revenge. He did not want fame. He only wanted to continue learning. Years later, the story of Kael spread across the galaxy. Many species remembered the day when a human child changed their understanding of strength forever. And every new student at the Galactic Academy learned the same lesson. Never underestimate a Deathworlder. Because behind every human smile, there is a history of survival.